Brimstone is right around the corner, and with this patch, it's gonna change everything. All right, let's get started. All right, so I'm here on the PTR. So everything that I say here is subject to change, but we're not really talking about the fine details here. We're just going to dive in to the meat and potatoes. We're going to dive into the things that you're going to want to do every day. We're going to dive into basically everything that is going to change next patch. Now, am I going to cover absolutely everything? No, but we're going to try to cover the most important thing. And if you can see it on my back, the one thing that is probably the most hyped out of everything, it is this bad boy, the Greatsword. The Greatsword is probably one of my favorite weapons in the game. We'll go over here and we'll start killing these mobs. When the archer spawns, you got to kill the archer. The archer is just, oh, I hate the archer so much. But let's go ahead. We're going to get some fortify. We're pretty tanky now. We're going to go ahead. We're going to circle around. Now we're going to do the biggest of damage. And we're knocking him down. We're killing him. We're gonna die here because we're taking so much extra damage. Okay, the archer finally spawned. The archer does so much damage. We're gonna go ahead and try to kill him here. We killed the boss here. We're gonna go over and get some fortify. He's standing there like he doesn't know what he's doing. That's awesome animation though. But we've go ahead. We've killed him. We've knocked them all down. Give me a glyph. Nope, we didn't get a glyph. But yes, the Greatsword. It is so much fun. We will go into more detail on some of the other videos. We might have like tips and tricks on the Greatsword, but just note that the Greatsword is an absolute ton of fun. It has one of my favorite mechanics I have seen in New World, and that is the ability to stance switch. You can do it a couple different ways. So like I said, well, this isn't going to be a Greatsword video, which it very much well could be, but it has the ability to swap stances. It has pretty awesome abilities. It has a cool animation and has a lot of cool little things to do with it. It seems like it's going to be overpowered in the sense that it's going to do a ton of damage, but it does lack in a few features, and that is mainly CC and maneuverability, but it makes up for it in damage and outplay potential. So I'm super excited for the Greatsword. It has a lot of implications for war, for 1v1s, for 3v3s. It is going to find its place in the meta for sure. Where it ends, I don't know, but the Greatsword is going to be absolutely a blast. The next thing we're going to talk about here is Heartrune Gems. These are essentially ultimate abilities. I'm going to have a video going over absolutely every single one of these, from the damage, what they look like, how to use them, when you can use them. We are in the process of still testing all of that stuff out. You know, can you use it while CC'd? You know, every single one of them, we've tested it out. I already have all the damage numbers down. I've tested out a few things, but we're trying to finish them out. But these are essentially another ability that you will get to put on your bar. You can see down here, I have it as the 6 key. I have one of those, you know, MMO mice that I can just put it on the side of my mouse. So we have it on 6 here, but this is a really cool ability. We'll show it to you on this guy. Now, the damage scales not quite on your weapon, but you'll see here, we will do a little bit of damage to it. But again, we have a 500 rune. And these are like 620, I think, is what you're supposed to be while in Brimstone. You don't really need to be that way, but so we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna get some empowerment, and you can see there we did 1600 damage to him, but it's not a whole lot. Once you get them leveled up, they actually do a lot more damage. I'll do another video about leveling these things up, or how you craft them specifically and what you need for them, because it actually did change on what you needed for them. But just note that these are essentially ultimate abilities, even though New World does not want you to call them ultimate abilities. They are Heartrune abilities, but they really do, when you get the legendary ones, feel like ultimates. They kind of feel like this one specifically, when you use it, when you get the legendary one, there's one that kind of feels like Dragon Leap from the DK for Elder Scrolls. It has one that does like massive damage. You have some CC, you have some healing. They're all really cool. And they're going to be a ton of fun to play around with. So these are going to be something that when the patch drops, you're going to want to get as fast as possible, because these are absolutely so cool. Next, we're going to talk about probably the thing that you're going to grind for the most, and that is going to be not that. That's not what it is. It is going to be these Heartrune Gems. These are essentially ways to augment your existing gems, or I should say your new gems, to have them either get a little bit of utility or some extra damage. We'll go ahead and put on to the ones I have. You can see here we have one in our sword that gives us stamina back when we hit every 3 seconds, so we can dodge. And boom, we get 8 stamina back when we dodge. We dodge, 8 stamina back. So it is either utility, or you can see here we have an elemental one here. So we have, what's it say here? 8% arcane damage per second for 2 seconds. You can see there we get a 31, 131. Now, if you have it on, let's say, your Greatsword, it will do significantly more damage. I've had it upwards of like 250 in medium armor. So you can really pump it. Even if you don't put a ton of points into it, you can really pump pretty hard. Now, as you can see here, we can do... Oh, hold on. We can tag multiple targets at the same time. I actually don't have my Greatsword. But if you hit multiple targets with it, you can get multiple target dots at the same time. You can see here, we have multiple dots ticking. It's a ton of damage. It makes up for the fact that when you put these on, you do lose some either damage or tankiness in your gems. Normally this says 12% damage against targets with an active crowd control. This now says 10% because we've made it into a Runestone gem, but we gain all of that damage back on the very first tick of this and more. And then once it ticks for a second time, you've definitely increased your damage. So it is pretty crazy. When we put on the Ice Gauntlet, you can see here that when we put down Ice Shower, it doesn't actually tick. Those 92 is not actually the damage tick. You can see here when we basic attack, we get the 43 dot. But if we put something down like Pylon Burst, it will proc it as well. And then while it's proccing to that, we can go ahead and we can just target everything else, if we can actually target it. And we can get everything dotted up at the same time. But you will need to manually hit something. In the game, we have essentially hits, and then we have basically tagged under AoE, like Wind Chill, Flamethrower, Ice Shower, Ice Storm. These are all AoEs. Ice Shower doesn't hit unless you actually have the perk on it, but those are not actually registered as hits. But Ice Pylon, your basic attacks, and any ability like Ice, Ice Spike. If you do like Ice Spike, Fireball, those will all direct hit, but if they walk through like the smolder from a Fireball, then it won't proc it, but as long as you land it on them, it will. So these are going to be absolutely crazy. These are going to augment the way we play. These are going to be what we grind for the most. What you're going to have to get is a bunch of, where are they at here? These Glyphs, and you'll need 5 of one. So you, like, let's say you might need food and sealed. You need 5 of these, 5 of these, to just go ahead and make one of these Runestone gems. It'll be through the Weaponsmith Crafter, but these are going to be what we grind for at a day-to-day basis. When you saw the very beginning of this video, I was actually up here, right here, and this is where the gift glyph drops. That's why I typically go up there. I did get 2 of them today. I was out to I killed them, I think all the mobs 3 times. And I did get my glyphs there. Each one of the glyphs drop in a very small location. They dropped it a named location. So like you have this one, the destruction one drops down here. And it's basically only in this lead area. The chests and the mobs have a chance to drop it. So you will have to make sure you go look them up. But these are going to be essentially what we grind for on a daily basis. We're going to have our Heartrune Gems, but honestly, you're only going to get a couple of these up. And then once you get them up, you're going to be good to go. So these are going to be what we grind on a daily basis if you're looking to really grind some end game material, and it's going to be in the form mainly of these glyphs and the end game crafting material that is going to drop in Brimstone, such as the sandstone and the sulfur. Those are found all around the place. So make sure you get out there and start farming those up when Brimstone launches, because that's going to be mainly sort of your end game loop that has changed. The next thing we are talking about is this absolutely behemoth behind me. If you haven't seen this, I'm sorry, I might be spoiling it, but this is by far one of the coolest dungeons I have ever seen on the outside. This dungeon is, when you can see this thing, from across the map. This thing, especially that little pyramid on top, this is by far the coolest entrance to a dungeon. I mean, let me know in the comment section down below if you've seen a cooler entrance. This thing is absolutely massive. It has such a cool aesthetic to it. I absolutely love it. You have some statues on either side. We have a desert around us in this massive glowing pyramid at the top, where it looks like they cut off the top of the pyramid, flipped it upside down. It is absolutely crazy looking, and I absolutely love it. And this is the Ennead. I haven't actually personally ran it yet. It does have a mutation. Honestly, the drops in it for me personally aren't the greatest. There are some really cool ones in there. There's a Abyss earring. There can be possibly Abyss earrings in the mutations, but this dungeon is absolutely crazy, and I couldn't do a video talking about what's coming in Brimstone if I didn't mention this dungeon right here. You can see here, these are the named items that you get. We did a video on all of these. This earring right here is really good. Nibble, refreshing toast, refreshing evasion. And then we have a bow, which is kind of very meh, but it can be pretty good. And then you have all, of course, of the mutation gear. It is really good. We're not going to go into super in-depth on this mutation and on this expedition, but just note that this is just absolutely crazy looking. And when you go inside, it actually has a few different mechanics that we've never seen in the game. It has some new mob types. It has a lot of really cool mobs in it. It does still go by the ancient tag, but they do they have some nice, interesting mechanics in there, to say the least. We're not going to spoil it for you, but let's just say they added a few little quirks in this expedition that make it an absolute blast to run. Well, at least from the people that I've talked to. But we're going to save that for live when it comes up. If you guys really want me to run it, I can do a video on it. But for the most part, I imagine you guys want to kind of experience it for yourself. So the Ennead expedition is, you know, Tempest was the coolest inside looking dungeon, and this has to be one of the coolest entrances to a dungeon that I've ever seen.
The next thing we are going to talk about is probably one of the most exciting, or one of the most adventure-seeking type of MMO-esque things, and that is going to be, we're going to go here to objectives, no, documents. We're going to go to Tales of Brimstone Stands. You'll have more than this when you have, I believe, on live, but we're going to go to the ancient glyphs. Now, we're not going to spoil these for you. As you can see here, I've done a few, but these are essentially glyphs that you're going to need to go unlock, and they're going to unlock the ability to open up elite chests. Every elite chest in this zone is actually locked behind one of these ancient glyphs. You do have elite sarcophaguses, which we're going to talk about those in a little bit, which are essentially elite chests, and you can find those mainly in the elite zones. But you will find regular elite chests in these, or not with every one of them, but you will need to discover all 26 of these ancient glyphs. They are absolutely all over the place. There's one here, there's one here. You can find them all over the place. I'll do a video, if you guys like, on a little map of where to find them, but it is going to be a very good thing for, I think, most players to go out there, seek them out, get these glyphs done, and be able to open them up. Just note that when you're doing this, I would do this in a group of 5, because there are a few bosses, and I will not spoil it for you because it is actually a blast when you figure some of the little mechanics out. But there's some little bosses you'll have to fight, and some of them only spawn at a certain time. So go ahead and check those out. It is a lot of fun. There's 26 of them to open up, and you can figure out the rest. We'll let you guys kind of dive into that, because that is it's actually pretty fun. Now, with the new update comes some new crafting stuff. First, and I don't think I actually have any of them, but we actually have some new recipes. We have recipes that are essentially your 40 stat food. We actually don't have them any on this character, but you have like the 40 con food, the 40 strength food, but it's going to be a lot easier to get. Once you get the recipe, you'll be able to go out in Brimstone Sands and kill stuff like armadillos and scorpions. They're going to give you the material that you're going to need to craft them. Currently, the way that the normal 4-day food works, especially for things like dex and strength, you have to get some dumb legendary fish that only drop so often, and then it's super expensive, but these are going to make it to where these are going to be super cheap, or at least a lot cheaper than they are now, and it's going to be something that everybody's going to craft. Not only is that the something that changed, but we also got legendary tools and legendary bags. Now, I didn't end up crafting any legendary bags. I think I might have thrown them away, but the bags themselves, you get extra perks on them. Here we go. So you can see instead of 3 perks, because it's purple, we're going to get 4. And then when you land on the legendary perk, it's going to make your consumables last a little bit longer. And then when it comes to your gathering tool, when you land on the legendary, it's going to get an alignment, which is just going to give you some motes every time, or at least has a chance to give you motes every time you gather something using the tool. I went out and tested this in another video, and I think it's like 30% chance or 20% chance to get this, but it's going to be super great. It's going to give you a little bit extra motes here and there. It's not going to be something that's going to be completely game breaking, but it's another item that you can kind of work towards. And honestly, it's actually more important to get the 4th perk on the tool than it actually is probably getting this alignment. The alignment is very nice, and motes are something that we struggle with getting, and this is going to help out a lot. It's not going to be game breaking, but it's still a ton of, quality of life. But when it comes to changing the way we do things for crafting, there's nothing bigger and more important than golden scarabs. They are these little, we don't have them right here, but we have one in our inventory. They're these little scarabs that you get while opening mainly up chests. And what these are going to allow you to do is, instead of doing our normalist time of the shard, we're just going to be able to pick an attribute. We're going to be able to pick 1 perk, and then we're going to roll it. When we do a scarab, we're going to be able to pick an attribute and 2 perks. We can pick that and that. We can go ahead and pick 2 perks on here, making it a lot easier to craft your BIS items. It is going to take 3 timeless shards, 25 of your attribute modifications, the golden scarab, and then the rest of the normal stuff that you're going to need, plus a little bit of extra Azoth here. But it's going to make it significantly easier to craft your BIS item. It's essentially going to make it to where, for instance, Great Axe, people run Thwarting Strikes, Refreshing Move, and then, whatever's your 3rd perk, attunement, if you can get it. Now it's going to make it basically where you can just guarantee a 595 2 perk item. You can get your basically best in slot PvE gear, or close to best in slot PvP gear with relative ease next patch. It's going to be super awesome, and that is going to be an absolute game changer. Also, because we got a few new places to go, and we have 2 outposts in 1 territory, it also means when it comes to your storage shed, you're going to get another 3 different places. We have this one, we have Brimstone Sands, and then we have, I forget what the last one is called, and it's right here. So you're going to get 3 more storage sheds, and one that has the ability to put, get your rep up there so you can get extra storage in there. It's going to be great for all of you guys that are really struggling with storage. Getting that extra storage is going to be really nice. And then when it comes to you PvP folks like myself, we got some pretty nice changes. When you go up here to game modes, we go here and you can see here we now have gear scaling. It's we exited out of there. It says that if your gear score is under 600, it's going to scale it up to 600. Now, you will have people in there over 600 gear score. It doesn't matter super significantly, but to say that it doesn't matter at all is, a misnomer, because it does matter. I put out some different videos about how gear scaling works. You do get a nice benefit going over it. 620 is kind of where you need to be. Also, we did it in 3v3s as well. Now, I don't know when it comes to war if it is going to scale. And because we're talking about wars, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the territory control. You can see here when we go ahead and leave the company, we have now an explanation. And it says company war cooldown. While the cooldown is active, you will only be able to fight as a mercenary in any defense wars led by the company you join next. While the cooldown is active, you will be able to earn influence for your faction for completing PvP missions, but the influence you will earn will not go towards the new company's selection as the War Vanguard. So what I can see here is we basically have two categories. We have War Vanguard and we have mercenaries. So with mercenary, it is going to be what I assume is whenever you defend a territory, you're going to have the certain amount of War Vanguard, which is going to be the company that you are in, and then a certain amount of mercenaries you're allowed to have. Now, on the PTR, no one has warred anybody, so I haven't been able to see those exact numbers, but because we've seen this, we know there's going to be a certain percentage. They mentioned 35 on the PTR, or at least on the dev blog for the PTR. We don't know exactly what it is. We do own 2 territories, but again, we haven't been able to actually, war, so we don't know the exact name. But essentially, if you leave a company, when you join the next one, it'll be 3 days before you can actually count as a War Vanguard. And when you're pushing territory, you can push. The standing will go up, but it will not count towards the faction, or sorry, the company that you're in. So if I leave Revenant and I join company X, if I go and do faction missions while I'm in company X, it will not count towards their percentage, their 10% they need to get to actually attempt to bid on the territory. It will not go towards that, and I will not be able to fight as a War Vanguard on their company roster until that 3-day cooldown is up, but I still will be able to fight in it. It'll just be as essentially as if I wasn't in their company. All right, so the last 2 things you can expect from Brimstone is, first, we talked about it, and that is one of my favorite new little mini activities, and that is opening up these sarcophaguses. They are all over the map. You can do these with a group or solo. It's not too bad. It can take a little bit of time to kill these guys, but as you can see here, they're not incredibly too difficult. Now, it does scale with whatever zone that you're in. They give a little bit of loot, and you have grave offerings that you will be able to loot from. There are a bunch of different types of these around the map. They can give you a lot of things that you're going to need to craft with, but they are very fun and they are quite all over the place. And then last thing is going to be, because this zone is so big, at least for a while, you're going to be able to explore. I've spent hours on the PTR doing a bunch of different things, and you can still see here there are places that I haven't been to yet, actually a bunch of them. So make sure you go out and explore the entire zone, because this zone is absolutely massive. This next update is going to change the way we craft. It is going to change the way we can PvP, or at least how early we can do it. It's going to change territory systems, bring us a new weapon, bring us a bunch of new things, the way we get our gear, how we craft it, at least, how we're going to get new rune gems. We're getting a new ability that can be absolutely crazy. This update is bringing a ton of good things, not to mention we have a new player experience. We are getting fresh start servers. This update is not even close. It is by far the biggest update we have ever seen in New World, and it is just what New World needed at the perfect time. The game is building momentum. Every Sunday we seem to break our previous record. This Sunday we hit, what was it, 46,000 players concurrent. We have a ton of people coming back to the game. Almost all of them are absolutely loving it. The next update is going to be massive. A Brimstone stand is going to be so much fun. I cannot wait for it. I hope you guys are excited as I am. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like, comment, subscribe, like always, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.